Recently, the Hillbilly has had a rework, and many people don't know why. So first, I decided to try and figure out what was wrong with the Hillbilly beforehand. First, some housekeeping. I'm working on the basics demoman. It'll be out next week. All music used will be in the bottom right of your screen. And since most people know what his power was already changed to, I will put a quick timestamp to skip me explaining it for everyone who does not know. Alright, let's get on. So, first of all, most of his add-ons were changed. Now, he has some iridescent add-ons too. His chainsaw now has an overheat mechanic. If you spend too much time sprinting or revving, then you won't be able to use the chainsaw for a while. This is very minor, but why are people making such a big fuss about this small change? Well, you see, what makes the Hillbilly so good is that he can both one-hit survivors and can have a lot of map pressure. And he can do this with just a chainsaw. Skill floor is very low, but the skill ceiling is very high. It allows people to do a lot of crazy things and will give you a lot of map pressure. This is what I decided to look into first, thinking maybe this is why the devs changed it. Maybe they don't want him to have as much map pressure as he used to. So, in the background, there's some gameplay of Hillbilly. I don't play Hillbilly as a, halfway across the map sprinter. I play him mainly to lock down, 3 or 4 gems and back rev people mainly. I never overheated once, and only worried about the mechanic once in the entire round. I was also playing against 2 red ranks and 2 purple ranks, so it's not a matter of inexperienced players. Now, when you go across the map, you have to watch your meter. Now, if you go across the map once, you're fine. But if you ping pong between gens, then you are going to overheat. Before the change, this is how many people played Billy. But now you can't play like this, because you'll be punished by the overheat mechanic. What this means is that a lot of people are going to have to change the way they play Billy. This is a problem for some people, because they've been playing like this since the game came out. Remember, Billy was one of the first 3 killers to join the game, and because he was powerful, a lot of people still played him when other killers came out. A lot of people did switch over to the nurse, but that's neither here nor there. Now, they have to switch the way they play because, like I said, if they keep doing that, they're going to get punished by the overheat mechanic. Now, the reason why I'm not finding a big difference is because I have always played in a different way. It's not the most optimal way to play, but the fact that I don't have to change the way I play means that I had more of an ease going into this Billy rework. Now that's how it affects the players. But let's see and think about maybe why the devs would have changed this. Let's look at what they did a while back, around October of 2019, when they changed and reworked the nurse. What did they do? What they did was they made it so that whenever she blinks, she has to wait for her blinks to recharge instead of just going through the fatigue. Why did they change this? Because they wanted survivors to have more options when fighting a nurse. A good nurse could still dominate with that, because that's all they needed was 2 blinks. Now, I feel like they changed Billy the same way for the same reason. Now, let's think of what options a survivor had when they were fighting a Hillbilly. They had a few options. They could use windows, they could just try and juke, or they could use stealth. But that's not a way of fighting, that's a way of hiding, so I'm not going to count it here. Now, I think maybe Behavior wanted more survivors to have more options when fighting this killer. Same with Nurse, where with Nurse they added in some more options and they also made it more effective to try and break line of sight and lose the Nurse during the fatigue, because she couldn't blink to where she saw your scratch marks. Let's look at another rework they did in the same exact patch. They also reworked the Cannibal. They changed his chainsaw so that now, instead of it being a frenzy that would stop when you ran out of meter, you could extend it with charges. What this did was it gave the Cannibal what he needed. He needed more room to go with his chainsaw. So why would they change this? Well, it's pretty simple. He was the worst killer for a time, because you could not use him at high ranks, because either someone would run around a tree and you hit a tree and go into a tantrum, there would be a window, pallet, you name it, it could stop him. And with this change, they have made him viable for higher ranks. With these reworks, I believe what they were trying to do was put each of those killers on the same level. They did not do a very good job, because of the main fundamental flaw with the Cannibal. He doesn't have any map pressure. Now, why am I going into a tangent about the Cannibal in a Hillbilly rework video? because of a couple of reasons. I'm comparing his rework to other rework of a similar caliber that took the power and tinkered with it instead of completely changing it, like with the Nightmares rework. Now, in that spirit of comparing reworks, let's look at another rework that happened before the Nurse, the Spirit. What did they change with the Spirit? They changed some of her add-ons and her power. Why did they do this? Because she was too strong. It was agreed on by both Killer mains and Survivor mains that there was an issue with the Spirit. She did not require as much skill as the Nurse or Hillbilly to get her downs, and she just had too much of too many things. Now, what do I mean by that? She had a chase power, she had map pressure, and she also had a stealth ability. Now, we've already seen the combination of a chase and mobility power in both the Oni afterwards and the Hillbilly. Now, why was it too strong? Because part of it was a stealth ability. If you were inside of her terror radius while she activated her ability, then you wouldn't hear the terror radius at all. Nothing. That was too powerful. So, rightly, she got a nerf. Now, in comparison to Hillbilly's rework, they did almost the exact same thing. They tinkered with his power and his add-ons. Aside from completely redoing most of his add-ons, including icons, and giving them to Bubba, the ones that he didn't use, they also added a main flaw to his chainsaw, which I think was mildly deserved, because having too much map pressure can make the game too one-sided on equally balanced maps. Now, of course, if you're on a killer-sided map, you're going to have the advantage. If you're on a survivor-sided map, you're going to be in a disadvantage. I'm talking about an equal playing field here in this example. Now, what do I mean by too much map pressure? When I say this, I don't mean map pressure is a bad thing. It's something you need to win as killers at high ranks. What I'm saying is that when you have too much map pressure, you aren't giving the survivors a fair chance and it won't be as much fun. But with this change, they've limited how much map pressure he can have. Because if you're ping-ponging between gens, like I've said earlier, you will be punished by an overheat and you won't be able to use your chainsaw for a bit. But I think what pushes this into still being very balanced and very strong is that it really doesn't affect abilities when they're in chase. If you curve, if you will back rev, if you will hold the chainsaw, the overheat doesn't affect that. You will still get a bit of overheat by curving, by revving, back revving, and by fluttering, as they put it in the dev blog update, but you still won't get a lot. So, what does this mean for Billy mains? What does this mean for his strength as a killer? For Billy mains, this just means you're going to have to take some more time to learn this reworked version of the killer. It's not that difficult, it'll just take a few days, maybe a week. Now, what does this mean for his position on the tier list? I think that it'll stay the same, it might change a little bit. This doesn't mean that Hillbilly's dead. I've heard that too many times. All this means is that he doesn't have as much map pressure, but he still has as much power in the chase, and he still does have that map pressure. You just gotta work for it a bit more. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video essay of the Hillbilly's rework. I am currently working on the basics demoment, so if you like this, then maybe you'll like that. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.